So, with much to discuss in the next couple of days, there are areas where Germany and China agree and some where they don't. I spoke with Jacob Kierkegaard about Merkel's visit. He's a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics.
Well, I think right now, unfortunately, due to the policies of the Trump administration, there's a whole bunch of issues where they actually see very much eye to eye when it comes to confronting what is, in their eyes, will be a continued assault by the U.S. government on the international trade order. You know, steel tariffs, now potentially national security justifications for auto tariffs. Which obviously will hit Germany more than China, but nonetheless, so how to deal with that is certainly one area, but there are many others. Germany and China are two countries that have a very deep economic relationship. There is a lot of German investment in China. And China is beginning to invest more in Germany and the rest of the EU. You know, Merkel will have a lot of complaints about restrictions to German firms and European firms operating in China. But at the same time, she will basically, I believe, tell him that, look, unless you liberalize and let European firms operate more freely in China, we're going to put restrictions on Chinese firms operating in India and Europe.
So do you see Xi and Merkel now emerging as the leaders from the East and the West who are really pushing globalization and multilateralism, where the U.S. has basically abdicated that role?
Oh yeah, I think Iran, in some ways, if you look at the response to Trump's protectionism, right? People say, oh well, this is terrible. We're going to go back to the 1930s. No, we're not. Because this is essentially a trade war by the United States against everybody else. But everybody else is not waging war against everybody else, right? Everybody else is essentially hedging or strategically exploiting the withdrawal of the United States. The EU is busy striking trade deals with the other NAFTA partners. They just did one with Japan. And I have little doubt that, in due time, the Chinese will be doing the same thing.
Jacob, what will you be looking for, the telltale signs emerging from this few days of Merkel being there in China?
I would basically be looking for whether or not the Chinese will be strategically making concessions, particularly on investment issues, to the Germany and the EU as a whole, because I would take that as a clear sign that China is strategically trying to split what otherwise would have been a natural transatlantic alliance against many of the restrictive investment and trade practices that China has been conducting. Because they have affected, in equal terms, both American and American and European firms operating in China. But because of the, in my opinion, self-defeating policies of the Trump administration, it would be very easy for China, and in fact, it would be in their straightforward strategic interest to play in a game that they offer the Europeans a little bit, maybe even offer to launch a bilateral investment treaty between the EU and China to drive a wedge between the U.S. and the EU. So that's essentially the big picture that I'll be looking for.
And we'll be watching for that as well. Jacob, thanks so much.
My pleasure.